Oh, you already pressed record.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so welcome to the first week of the Journey Builder Bootcamp hands-on sessions. Today we're going to be building out a journey. We've got our builder, Maggie Ellis. And we're going to share my screen. We're going to cover our use case before we go in and do that build in Journey Builder. Can everyone see my screen? Got a deck hands-on session use case.
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Yes,
fantastic. Great. Okay, so here's our use case. We're going to use Cervelo Bank as a fictitious company. They're a financial firm looking to expand their marketing share. They've done an all-out marketing blitz to generate leads. And a couple months after that blitz, they meet with sales and they're like, how are things going? And sales hasn't really, followed up with any leads. They're not seeing any conversion on the back end. So the problem is the sales is swamped. They don't really have trust in those leads. They're not ranked. And by the time they get to those leads to work them, they're cold because they don't respond to them. They're not being communicated to. So working with sales, our team comes up with a solution to utilize Journey Builder to do the following. We want to rank those leads into easy understand buckets. We want to nurture those leads to keep them warm. So when sales reaches out to them, they're not cold. We want to notify sales if there is a hot lead, someone who's ready to talk right away. And we want this to be a Journey automated solution because sales is swamped. They don't have time to work through this situation. They don't have someone on their team to manually send out emails. It needs to be automated. So we sit down with marketing, we sit down with sales, and we put together just this general flow diagram for what the journey could be. So this is going to be worked on the sales side in Salesforce CRM and Marketing Cloud. So the leads are going to be coming from Salesforce. We're going to want to do some lead ranking in Salesforce. And then once they get pulled into Marketing Cloud, we're going to want to send them down 3 separate journey paths. If they have a hot ranking, we want to create a task in the Salesforce CRM environment to alert that salesperson. And then we also want to send that salesperson a hot lead notification saying, hey, you've got this lead, let's follow up. On the warm path, we're going to want to reach out to that lead just to gauge their interest level. If they engage with that email, if they're ready to talk, we want to feed them back up to the hot path and follow that same process. If they don't engage, we're going to follow them down into the sort of the cold path, the traditional nurture path of the journey, where we're going to be serving up different communications to keeping them warm, keeping them interest in our product. In between each of the emails, we're going to want to do a couple of things. We want to wait a certain amount of time before each of those emails. And then before we send out that email, we want to check that lead back in the Salesforce CRM environment to make sure that they're open. We don't want to send a communication to a lead that has been closed or a lead that sales is actively working on. So this is the framework of the journey that we want to build out today, just sort of mapping it out on a flow level basis. And then one more note before we jump into the platform to start building is the content itself. So we're hearing from marketing that in addition to sending out these journeys, these communications to leads, they want to bring a certain level of personalization on a variety of different levels. So they want to personalize the email. They want to, have a greeting, in this example, Dear Victoria. They want the content to also be customized based on the interest that that lead has raised their hand for. So customizing the content to serve up different products. They also want to customize the call to action based on the intent, that ranking for that individual itself. And last but not least, they want to customize it so they know who they can reach out to. They want to personalize it to that sales rep. So these are the different data points that we want to bring into the journey in order to customize the emails itself. So that is what we're going to start building today. So I just wanted to, before we jump into there, just want to see if there were any questions. So quickly check the chat. And Maggie also asked you any questions related to this use case.
No. And I can go ahead and share my screen and start building it if that's what you'd like.
Awesome. Let's do that. The first thing we'll do is we'll check your access. I know we granted you access both to Marketing Cloud and the Salesforce CRM environment, and just wanted to check to see. We've recently upgraded your access this morning, so I wanted to make sure that you had access. Looks good. Okay, fantastic. And Maggie, we're gonna go to the business unit. We're gonna have you go to the main business unit. Okay, so if you refresh your screen, hoping that you, okay, hold on one second. Sorry about that. I just need to adjust your business units. 1 second. So I'm just going into setup. Just created Maggie. Oh, you are an admin, so you could probably do it yourself. Yeah, so thank you. Yep. And then if you go down to the associated business, yep. And then if you want to just click on the top Cervelo partner main, I think that'll give you all of them. So in the associated business units, if you click on, okay, still not allowing you to do that. Hold on 1 second. Maybe I have to do that. Okay, if you refresh your screen, I think you'll have access to the core.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
So
so
we're gonna
we're,
do the partner main, please.
right.
Awesome.
And then in Journey Builder.
Yeah. Go to Journey Builder. And we'll just create a new journey. So Maggie, love to get your perspective on this. We typically always use multi-step. I get the single send journey, but your perspective, you typically, I mean, do you have use cases where you do single send or transactional send journeys?
Typically, it's just multi-step. And that's what this journey is. Okay.
Yep. Cool. And a little pet peeve on my end is I always name my journeys first, right? Because of that, if you don't name it, you activate it, it creates this default name and it will always be named that way, which is frustrating. You can change it, but you have to change the version. So it's up to you. Yeah, you could call, well, instead of Cervelo, let's just call this test lead nurture. Perfect. And always fun for those who are journey builders, when you hit save, to save it in the folder, it's kind of interesting. So if you click that organize box in that green bar, you have to hit save one more time. It's so fascinating. This is the UI for how to do that. So yeah, let's go under hands-on. Is that hands-on folder? And there's that Journey Builder Bootcamp folder. Yeah, and we can just save it there. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to do this in 2 phases to show everyone how easy it is to create a journey. We're going to build out the entire journey and then try to activate it and just show how, just creating a journey is not the easiest thing when you actually have to make it work. But we're going to create the journey as it was intended. And so let me just drop into the channel this flow chart just so you have it as a reference as well. See if I can drop this image in the chat.
And I have it on my other screen.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Okay, so Maggie, we'll probably, for the entry event, and we're going to cover this in much more detail tomorrow, we're probably going to go with the data extension entry event because, like you said, it's probably going to be query based. the reason why you could also be a Salesforce data entry event because it is a lead source. But because of the complexity of the entry event, we're probably going to use a query to pull them in. So yeah, excellent.
Okay.
And once they come into the journey, like we had talked about in that flow diagram, excellent. Yes, we're going to have 3 separate journey paths. So, yep, go into the decision split. Let's add a path and let's just name these like hot, warm, cold for now, just in that pencil. Yeah, perfect.
Well, cold will be the remainder, right?
Well, I kind of liked how you added a 4th path there. Let's leave that in there because in our data that we're going to be passing a variable that's going to determine these paths. So it's good to have an extra path in your decision split in case that variable doesn't exist. That
Right.
can be helpful. So that was fantastic. And we're going to do the configuration after. So this is perfect. It's going to give us those paths and journey builder. So if you want to hit, it's not going to let you save it, is it?
No.
Make sure its path is configured unique. Okay. So let's hit the X button on that. That's okay. So we've got a 2-path journey for now. We can keep moving forward on this. So we'll just call the path 1 as the hot path, and we'll do the bottom path as like a cold path. In that hot path, we wanted to create a task activity. And yeah, and there's 2 ways to do that. I kind of like using the object activity function versus the individual objects. We've sort of heard from Salesforce that can be best practice. They said that the task opportunity lead case are older versions of this functionality, and the object activity can be a little bit more performant. That's one of the reasons. Another reason is that it's just consistency. If you have a team that's doing constant updates in the Salesforce CRM environment to document how to, create the lead activity, the task activity, the opportunity activity can be can be kind of cumbersome. Whereas the object activity can do all of those things. You just go in and select the object. So I think if in the pencil, can you change object activity? Yeah, let's go to that, click on that pencil. Let's call that create task. Perfect. And then the second part of this journey is we want to, on this path, we want to send a hot lead notification to the owner of that
Uh-oh, he's freezing up. JB, can you hear him?
lead. So we're gonna update the lead itself.
So Tim, do you want to turn off your video? So we see that
Sure.
voice is breaking in between.
Yep. Let me do that. Sorry about that. Okay.
Update.
Sorry. So yeah, so we want to create. Sorry, go ahead.
I see update contact, but not update lead.
Okay. So we're going to do actually another object activity because we're going to so if you want to bring another object activity onto that canvas, perfect. And then you can in that pencil you could call that update lead. Perfect. Okay, fantastic. So that path is complete for the most part. It's going to create a task, and it's also going to update the lead, which is going to allow the second journey that we're going to create is going to fire a hot lead notification. Okay, fantastic. So let's hit save. Perfect. Okay, now let's build out the cold path, the nurture path. We won't do the warm path because the decision split's not allowing us to do that. So if they're in the cold stage, we're going to send them an email. So let's pull over the email activity. Perfect. And then in between, let's pull it in another email. This is going to be a series of emails, lead nurture emails to keep them warm. So we'll pull that in after that wait step. Yeah, perfect. And then we have that wait step there. That's fantastic. Let's click into that. And because we're going to be doing some testing, we could change that to minutes instead of days. And we could change that to maybe 3 minutes or, something, just so we know it's working. Okay. And then the second part of this, the activities we want to do in between each of those emails is to check the status of that lead in the Salesforce CRM environment. So what we're going to want to use, we're going to want to use a decision split for that. Yep. And we're going to do that before the actual email.
Before email 2?
Correct. Yeah. So before we send each email, because the time between each send is going to be like 7 days or 10 days or such, we're going to want to check back into CRM and do that before we send out another email. So in this decision, basically, we're going to check, does the email, does the lead source equal open? So you could put that in there, like lead source equals open. Perfect. And if they're still open, then they're going to continue on and keep getting communications. If they're not open, then they're going to be kicked out of the journey, and we know that sales is working them and all of that. So let's hit save on that. Fantastic. So that's basically the basics of that flow diagram. The only part we're missing is the warm path, but we can add that in later. That's going to probably use an engagement split or a wait until event to check on the engagement. But this, this is pretty much mostly there. Looks pretty good. Any questions? Ask in the chat to see if anyone had any questions. So Lakshmi said it would be good if Maggie can explain what she's doing and why. Okay. Was there, to Lakshmi's point, does anybody have any questions about what we've built so far as setting up this, the basic journey? If you do, throw it in the channel and we'll see. Okay, great question. Update contact instead of update lead. So what we're looking to do for this use case is we want to update a lead in the Salesforce CRM environment. That is going to trigger a hot lead notification to that lead. So we're doing an update in Salesforce CRM. If you need to do an update in a data extension in Marketing Cloud, then yes, the update contact function is excellent for that, but that is only in the Marketing Cloud environment. Oh, okay. Thank you, Lakshmi. Looks like we're good. Okay, so let's duplicate this tab, Maggie. We're going to create our second journey, which is we're going to want to send a hot lead notification to the salesperson to let them know, hey, this lead is ready to talk. So if you want to name this.
Wait, we're going to duplicate the one that we just created?
No, we're going to create a new one from scratch. Yep, perfect. And yeah, so we could just call this test hot lead journey. Okay, so before we start this, Maggie, if you go back to the other journey.
Wait, you want me to put it in the same folder, right?
Oh, yep, that'd be great. Thank you. Sorry.
Journey Builder Bootcamp, save. Okay, and then go back to this one?
Yeah. So before we create this other journey, just wanted to start the conversation. Maggie, you can provide some feedback on this. So for our use case, we want to send an email not only to the lead, right? This is a lead nurture journey. We're going to send them a bunch of different emails. We also want the ability to send an email to the owner of this lead, the salesperson. And so we're creating another journey because it can be very challenging, sometimes even impossible, to send a different email in this two different emails in the same journey to two separate subscribers. And so that's why we're creating that separate journey, because this journey is sending an email to the lead itself. We also want to send an email to the salesperson, and we really can't accomplish that in the same journey. Maggie, do you have any thoughts on that as far as, and is that consistent with what you've done as far as using a journey for sending to a specific subscriber? I know there's some workarounds in doing that, but it's not really best practice.
Right. Okay, we can move forward with the new one.
Okay, cool. Okay, so what we're gonna do on this one is gonna be a different entry event. So we're gonna use a Salesforce data entry event. And the reason why we're using that is that the trigger to send this email is going to be when that lead gets updated, a certain field in from that other journey, that object activity, then it's going to say, okay, this lead is ready to be sent to sales. And that's what's going to trigger them to enter in this journey. And we're going to want to send that email to the salesperson. So this is going to be a very straightforward journey. We're just going to use the email message in there. So if you want to add an email message to that. And pretty much that's it. So you can hit save. It's going to be super simple, but it's kind of complex because it's triggering based on a field being updated in the Salesforce CRM environment. So we're going to be going over this in a little bit more detail tomorrow on the ins and outs of both of these entry events. And then we might build this out more in detail in our next hands-on session. But just wanted to create these two frameworks of journeys of how you can quickly in the tool, using it as a flow diagram to map out your journeys. We saw our challenges in the first journey where you can't really build it all of those different decision split paths because you don't have the data. But you can use it to sort of frame out a journey and get your sort of thoughts down on paper. But then this is when the work really begins, which is how do we build the journey so that we can get subscribers into the journey? How can we organize our data so that it identifies who should be coming in this journey, how we're going to personalize that email, and then how are we going to dictate the different journey paths and the different activities that happen once they're in the journey itself. Okay, cool. So now I just want to check to see if there's any questions before we move on to, we're going to start digging into the entry event, and we're going to start building out the data extension entry event that's going to feed these leads in from the Salesforce CRM environment. Okay, so why are we not using the update object to trigger the email here? So that's a good question. Why are we not using the update object to trigger the email? We are using the object activity to update the lead in the Salesforce CRM environment, which is essentially triggering the second journey. Exactly. To send the email to the owner of that lead, the salesperson. Great question, Phoebe. Okay, so now, Maggie, we're going to utilize your awesome skills in SQL. So we're going to create, now luckily we do have Query Studio, Maggie, so if we want to go into the App Exchange, yep, Query Studio, fantastic. And if you want to duplicate this tab, we're going to be utilizing data primarily from one of our synchronized data extensions. We have the connector in this environment. And if you want to navigate to the lead Salesforce synchronized data extension, that's the data set that we're going to be using to pull in these subscribers and the personalization that's in there. Perfect. Awesome. Excellent. All right, so let's go back into Query Studio. And for those who are new to SQL, whenever I'm creating a new SQL, I always put out the 3 basics of any SQL, which is a select, from, and where. So Maggie, if you just want to add, yeah. Perfect. So in our example, we're going to do this simple today. Our from, where is this data coming from? The data is going to be coming from that synchronized data extension. So yeah, if you want to copy the name of that lead underscore Salesforce. Cool. And we don't want to bring in all of those leads. We want to bring in leads, let's say, have been created in the last 24 hours. So before this session, I went into our Salesforce CRM environment and I created a lead for Maggie, created a lead for myself. So Maggie, we'll want to put in here a, so we'll, in the Salesforce CRM environment, there is a created date field. Yep, perfect, created date. Sometimes it's easier to copy that from the properties tab. Perfect. And then I'm going to drop into a channel. Matthews Dabrowski has amazing documentation on what we're just going to write here using the date add and the create date function. So Maggie, I don't know if you want to click into that link. We can take a look at Matthews's documentation on date add, and we'll use that as a reference.
I don't see it in the meeting chat. JB, do you see it?
No,
Oh.
Tim, can you make sure that you're sending to everyone in the group?
I'm sorry. Yep, I sent that to just one person. Hold on a second. Thank you. I'm sending it to Lakshmi.
There is one question, Tim, if you haven't answered
sure.
this. Can we use the update contact instead of the update lead?
Update contact versus the...
Yeah, we just talked about that.
Yeah, because we are updating a record in the Salesforce CRM environment, we have to use the object, the sales and service cloud activities. The update contact works if you're updating a data extension in the marketing cloud environment.
Great. Yeah, I think I missed it.
Oh, no
Thank you,
problem.
Tim.
No problem. Okay, so I think if you scroll down to the date add function in here, there we go, date add. So what we want to do basically with date add is basically gives you a date that you can reference in your SQL. And if you want to copy right in that select, there's a date add day 7, get UTC date. Yeah, let's just copy that part and we'll just drop that into SQL. Perfect.
So,
Oh, we'll leave the created date. Yep, perfect. And if you wanted, yep. Okay, great. And then what we want to do between the created date and the date add is a greater than or equal to.
so
The other way. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so date add, right? That gives you that date. That's what that function's doing. Within date add, you've got 3 variables. The first one is you can do it by day, you can do it by hour, month. So day's perfect. 7 is 7 days ahead. In this example, we want the last 24 hours. So we want to do a -1 instead of a 7 there. Perfect. And then Matthews has this in UTC, which might be a international formatting. You can just have that be get date. So you can remove the UTC part of that. Perfect. So that'll give us all leads that have been created. The created date has been populated with a date of the last 24 hours. Awesome. So just to start out with, so there's 3 parts of data that we want to pull into this journey based on the use case and what we walk through. Number 1 is the subscriber, who we're going to be sending this email to. Number 2 is the personalization that's going to allow that content to be personalized, those different data points. And then 3rd are data points that are going to allow us to carve the different journey paths in the journey itself. So we're going to start first with, let's just get a subscriber populated so we can see some actual leads in here. So to do that, we want to populate the subscriber key that we're going to be using for the send. And when you're using a Salesforce CRM environment, you're typically going to want to use that either, if you're using a lead, it would be the lead ID, or it would be the contact ID, etc. So perfect. Yeah, let's copy that ID. We're going to add that to the select statement, the ID value, and that is going to be the first field that we're going to populate in our data extension. Fantastic. And then the second one we're going to want to add in is we need the email address, right? We need to send an email. The ID is not going to be enough unless that subscriber's in Marketing Cloud. So yeah, let's see if we can find the email address in this list. Yep, perfect. And then one little nerdy thing about SQL that I like to do, Maggie, if you can hit a return right before that comma, and then add a comma there.
Here.
Actually, if you do it before the email, and then if you want to take it out from the ID line. So always when I'm writing SQL, always forget that comma, right? And so if you start off with your first line like Maggie has here with the first variable doesn't need a comma. And then every line after that, if you start with a comma, you'll never forget that comma. So it's just a little pet peeve that I have. All right, so let's run this and let's see if we get some leads. Again, these were added this morning, so it should qualify in the Salesforce CRM environment that those leads are in there. And Maggie, do you have the Salesforce CRM environment up as well? Because we can go check and check that as well. Yeah, if you go to sales. Perfect. And then if you search for your name in the search bar at the top. Yeah. Yeah, let's click into you. Let's take a look at you. So let's click in that details tab. And I think if you scroll down all the way down to the bottom, should have that created date. So get a little bit further up. There we go. Created by, and then there's the date 8/14. That might be the created date, and then the last thing that was created by. I think that's the created by field, but anyways, so that was created this morning, so that should qualify. Let's scroll up just to take a look at some of the details on this lead itself. So we've got, Maggie's name, we've got a company in here. We've got a product that she's interested in. Again, this is going to help us with personalizing that email itself while she's in the journey. We've got a predictive score here for Maggie. That's going to help us determine that hot, warm, cold lead. As we get a little bit more complex, as we build this out, she also is associated with a company. That company record is an account. That account also has a ranking. So we're going to want to combine both the lead ranking and the account ranking and create some sort of like an Uber rank that's ultimately going to be driving our logic and the journey itself. But just wanted to walk through that, what we're seeing on the CRM side. Okay, so let's go back to your query, Maggie, and say, okay, great. We've got 2 records, right? So we've got some data here. Part 1 complete. we've got a subscriber key, a lead ID, we've got an email address to send that email. So good, this is what we need to send somebody through the journey. All right, let's start working on part 2. We want to personalize this email. We want greeting. How can we navigate to get Maggie's first name in that email? So let's go back to that synchronized date extension. Let's see what we've got here for values. First name, that looks good. Let's bring that over. And we can add that as a new line. Perfect. Let's go back to the lead itself in Salesforce CRM. And the next level of personalization we'd like to do is that product field, so that we know we want to pass that into our journey. That's going to dictate the content. So let's see if we can find that field in that synchronized date extension. Product _C, that looks right. Right after last name, that product _C. Okay, let's hit run on this. And while we're waiting for that to run, Maggie, let's go back into the Salesforce CRM environment, just for those that are need to align their data with Salesforce CRM and Marketing Cloud. So you can see here product, right? That was the field we were looking for. And we were navigating the synchronized date extension, and it looked like product _C was it, right? _C, right? Looked like that was the one. It's not always that simple. So to help navigate to find the naming conventions that are consistent between the two platforms, Maggie, if you go into setup in CRM, so in the upper right-hand corner, yep, you're probably familiar with that. We're going to go to Object Manager, and we're going to look into the lead object. So an Object Manager gives you basically the details of all the Salesforce CRM objects that you're syncing down. Yep, so if you search for product, what this is going to give you is the Salesforce name, product, and the API name, that __C. That's the name of that variable in the sync DE in the Marketing Cloud environment. So it's good to be familiar when you're working in the Salesforce CRM environment, those two, and how to find those, because you'll see them be completely different. Product in Salesforce CRM could be unit status or something completely different in the Marketing Cloud environment. So it's always good to understand the data in both environments there.
Okay.
Let me just check questions to see if we have anything while we're working. Maggie, if you want to go back to the query, let's see what we've got for results. Why do you prefer using open activity node for task creation instead of a task node? So great question, Mike, I believe it is. So we've heard from sales, and we sort of covered this earlier, that the object activity can be a little bit more performant, it's a little bit more preferred by Salesforce versus the specific node task lead opportunity. And it also makes it a little bit more simple from a documentation and training standpoint, where you're using one activity for all object activity that you're using in the Salesforce CRM environment. So tend to recommend that way. If you're more comfortable using the lead, the task, certainly please go down that route as well. It's not a deal breaker if you do it. And then predictive score is defined on the lead object or in the Marketing Cloud in this case. How is it updated or synced based on the Einstein score in Marketing Cloud? Great question. The predictive score is based off an application called SalesWings that we've incorporated in our Salesforce CRM environment. So it is a out-of-the-box application that is helping with lead ranking in the Salesforce CRM environment. And we're carrying that through into the Marketing Cloud environment, and not really using Einstein to support the lead ranking solution for this use case, but it's certainly worth exploring in another opportunity there. Great call on the Einstein side of it. Okay, so back to our personalization. So we're getting our data now. We're getting to that second part where We're going to be able to personalize that email, the greeting. We'll be able to use that product to just display different types of content in the email itself. All right, and now let's do the third part, which is how we're going to carve those different paths in a Journey Builder. So we were going to use that ranking on the lead itself. So if we go back to that lead in the Salesforce CRM environment, let's just go take a look at what that field name was. Predictive score. Yeah, so let's go back to the sync DE and let's just see if it's probably maybe something like that with an __C. Yeah, so we'll bring over that predictive score.
Oh, right here.
Yep, perfect. Excellent. And that'll help us carve out those journey paths. Like we talked about, we probably will build in the account ranking as well and do some complex case functions to create, sort of merge those two scores into one Uber score. We'll do that in another session. This gives us ability to carve those different journey paths. Let's also, because in the journey itself, Maggie, we're going to be, between each email send, we're going to be using the status field to check that. Now, we're going to be using the Salesforce CRM data, the contact data for that decision split. But I think it's kind of helpful to have this status in the data extension as well. So yeah, let's go see if we can find that lead status field. Let's add that as well. Status, yeah, it's probably status. Cool. And then one other field, which is going to be really driving the second journey. If we go back to the lead itself, we want to send a hot lead notification to the salesperson that owns, Maggie's lead. So in that example, it's the lead owner up there in the upper right left-hand corner, which looks like that's me because I had created it. So you can see it in the details. Yep, there you go. So let's go see if we can just add that field to the data extension. We're probably not going to use it in this journey, but it just might be good to capture that. Yep, owner ID will be that what we're looking for. Again, we'll be using that in our Salesforce data entry event setup, but yeah, let's run that. Starting to get some really good data in here on that lead object that is going to do all of those different functions that we need for this journey to be successful. Any questions so far? I know we're sort of getting close to time. Great job, Maggie, by the way. Is this consistent with your, sort of typical approach when you're creating, awesome.
Yep, it is.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so let's just look at the data here, right? Because this is what's going to be driving. It's always good just to, to validate your data before you actually even build that journey. Predictive score, right? That's going to be what we're going to be using in that decision split. If it's going to be warm, we're going to send them down one path. If it's going to be hot, another. That status, it's good just to see, right? This lead is coming in with that open status, right? That should be the case. We could even add that to our where clause where the status equals open. But in this use case, if that lead's been created in the last 24 hours, it's probably open, right? Just came in. And then that owner ID, just good to see that data point. That is for those who are familiar, that is a user ID, that's 005 in the Salesforce CRM environment. So it's just good to know that is a ID. It's not my name or my email address. So we're just going to need to know that might just end up being the subscriber key on the other journey that's going to send an email to that user. But just always good to know that what that syntax is, because that is coming from the lead, and that's what's going to be using when we do the Salesforce CRM setup. Let me see if I got a couple of questions. how can we see the object manager in CRM? So yeah, Maggie, if you want to help us answer that question.
Right, so you always go to the gear icon and go to setup. And then object manager, and then you can type in lead right here. And then click on it and see all of the fields and relationships. So we searched for product. And then you can see all of the pick list values. So mine was credit card processing. Right here. DB,
Awesome.
does that help? Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so, the next stage of this would be, we build out the data extension. We would take this query, create a query itself. So I know we've got, 9 more minutes. Maggie, do you still have time just so we can create the data extension and create the query?
Yes, I do.
I'll have you walk us through that.
Okay, so it should have saved the query results. Query Studio results. Trying to look at. Well, this is from 2 records right here. Yep, our 2 records. So. Do you typically take this and like just repurpose this one, Tim?
That's awesome. Let's do that. That was a super easy way to create that data extension. So let's click into that data extension. To your point, let's rename it. Something similar to the name of the journey.
Test lead nurture.
Sounds good. And then in order for Journey Builder to see it, we have to use, this has to be a sendable data extension. Yeah. And let's talk about the subscriber relationship, which it is as the default. But Meg, I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about what would make sense in this example. We've got a lead ID, we've got an email address. Which ones looks are the best idea, the best to use? We've got all the fields are available to use as that subscriber key.
Right, so it's only letting me use ID for the
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Okay, yeah, let's hit save on that. And can you edit that ID over there on the right? Can we set that as a primary key? No. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, maybe there's limitations to this when setting up a data extension. I don't know. Anybody else use, let's see, if we save directly to all the data would be text only, but in case of date type, it would be useful, right? It should always be email address. Yep, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good call out that all of these come through as text data type, right? So to this point, we would need an email, that email field would need to be an email address field. We're seeing some limitations with, you can't really set a primary key. So I think with this, using Query Studio to create a data extension can be helpful if you're just creating data that you need to export and play around with. Yeah, that's good feedback. So I think the best, practice is we'll create a new one. Yeah.
Okay. Email is email address, like you said,
Yep.
first name. Product __C. predictive score, underscore C status, and then owner ID.
And let's also add a created date, just so that we can have that be populated. Let's create that as a date field and use the system default. Yeah, let's change the email. So let's add the primary key for the lead ID. Just in this example, right? They should really only enter this nurture once. And then required, I think email address probably would be a good one to have required. I think we would set up logic for everything else to have backups that are not required.
Customer, valued customer, or
Well, no, we'll end up using AMP script to
Okay.
use that. That's a good idea there. Okay, and so let's complete that.
see
And
how this is laid out down there?
yeah, that's interesting too.
Okay. But then,
Yeah, let's go to properties. Let's edit that sendable data, to change that to sendable. Does
okay,
it
there
give
we go.
you all the options there? Okay, there we go. Yeah, so probably, in this example, makes sense to use the lead ID as a subscriber key versus the email for best practices there. Just gives you more flexibility. Yep, perfect. And then we'll just go create a query and drop in that Query Studio query so that we'll add that to our automation in our next session to automatically fire them into the journey.
So you go through Automation Studio and do that.
Activities tab, yeah. And then if you go, yep, perfect.
SQL query. So we're just gonna dump this query in there.
Exactly.
And then our target data extension is the one that we just created.
Correct.
I should have put it in the correct folder, but
Yeah, where was that? It was under,
I can search for the name test.
Cool.
Lead nurture.
I think it was under queries. Yeah, if you want to just go to another tab, we could just move it. And I think if you go back,
Last modified.
yeah, it was under, if you open that up, it was under the, if you go to the data extensions folder, it was under the, yeah, query, there it is. There we go.
Enter DE. Huh.
Yeah, you might have to go into the query. Was it under Query Studio? There we go. Query Studio results. A little further down. There you go.
Weird that it wouldn't find it from that. Okay.
Yeah. It's
You
not,
want-
and then we'll probably use update on this. Yeah. Cool.
Okay. Finish.
Awesome. And then if you go back to It'll be under the SQL query. Yep. And I think it's under the, there it is right up there in the upper right-hand corner. Yep, there you go. Yep, we can just run that once. Cool. And then let's go back into our journey. And I know we're running out of time. We're at 9 o'clock. We can just add this date extension. And I mean, that completes a big part of, yeah, I think it's under folders. I think it was under hands-on. Yep. Yep. Oh, yep. Awesome. So yeah, so now we've got our data. Now we can configure those decision splits, the different paths, because we'll have that data point to pull in there. But we'll do that in another session. We're going to create an automation. So in that schedule box, we're going to go over to the automation, create an automation. We're going to turn it on just to so that Journey Builder can see it, so that we can make that connection. Once we activate the journey, that'll create the activity in the automation, and then that'll be able to make that connection between Automation Studio and Journey Builder to field in those subscribers. And then it's all about aligning the data that we just created to the different activities, the decision splits, the email itself, the different content points that are going to come in that email, the AMP script that's going to be driven off of that, the decision split to determine the contact data, to use the Salesforce lead data not from the date extension, but the actual lead synchronized date extension, so we can get that current status before they send the email. So we'll all cover that in our next session. I just want to see if I missed any questions. Yeah, the record. Sorry, go ahead, Maggie.
JB's going to add that recording.
Okay. Awesome.
This morning or evening.
Amazing. I mean, this is a ton of work, Maggie. Great job. I think it was good just to highlight how simple it is to build journeys. But when you really get down to the nuts and bolts, it takes a lot of work to get that data right. If you don't spend the time and the energy up front to get that data right, your journey's not really going to work correctly. So I think it was good just to give that perspective. Some people think, hey, we can just create these journeys and just throw down all these activities, click activate, and we're good to go. But that's not the case. And it's super fun just to dig into that and align the data. Maggie, any questions? Okay, go.
Are we picking up on this tomorrow morning at the same time?
So tomorrow morning, we're going to go into a little bit covering entry events. A lot of what we talked about today on the data extension entry event will be covered. And then we're going to go into the configuration of the Salesforce data entry event and the API entry event, the three big ones of how to use that, but the same model of how to use those three key data points, the subscriber data, the data that you're going to personalize that content, and then the third one, which is how you're going to create those different journey paths in the journey activity as well. But then the next hands-on session next Wednesday, we're going to take it from here and build out the journey, both of those journeys to fire subscribers through and actually send emails.
Perfect. I'll be online tomorrow to help out. Or do you have another person doing the hands-on tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow is going to just be a fundamental session. We're going to go through some deck pages. There won't be actual building. I'm just going to sort of go through that at a higher level, show some examples within the platform. And next Wednesday is when we're going to be doing probably invite a different hands-on person. But Maggie, it'd be great if you wanted to attend that as well, just as a different point of view.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so
Awesome.
much. This was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for volunteering. Let's give a round of applause for Maggie. It is not easy to do what she just did. Just jumped in the platform, just like handling all this craziness, standing up this use case from scratch. So thank you, Maggie. That was fantastic.
Thank you. You did a good job explaining everything, so thanks.
Same to you. Awesome. Well, thanks, everybody. See you tomorrow, and please reach out for other builders. I think we've got Mike lined up for next week. And thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.